Scott. Thanks, all. Um, in this session, we are unpacking Microsoft Ignite, which took place last week. There was a lot of exciting topics, lots of developments from the Microsoft end of things. And today we're joined by three wonderful individuals: Amy Boyd, a Senior Regional Cloud Advocate; Susie Dean, an Office Apps and Services MVP; and Rick Hempworth, a Microsoft Azure MVP. And they're here to discuss their key takeaways, things that they absolutely were excited about seeing at Ignite, highlighting certain topics, things like that. So they're here to kick it off. So at this time, I will pass it over to the group and let you all do a better introduction than I did.
No, Rebecca, that was a fabulous introduction. Thank you so much. So yeah, hi everyone. What we'll do is we'll do a very quick personal introduction each. So we'll go in the order of the images on the screen so we can keep in some kind of order. And we'll just tell you a little bit about ourselves so you know what types of skill sets we've got. And then that will probably start to change the direction of the conversation. We have so much to talk about. The three of us have been on prep calls for this, including Rebecca. We got Rebecca involved and everything, and everyone's very, very excited about what they've seen, and we've all been watching different parts, which is quite exciting, but we definitely want to hear from you as well. So I'm going to have the chat open, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. You'll notice we've just popped some polls in there. We'll get back to them in just a minute, but if you can guess what they're about, feel free to fill them in. But first off, let's get those instructions done. So hi everyone, my name's Amy Boyd. I'm a Senior Cloud Advocate here at Microsoft, so I work in our Developer Relations division. I work really closely with our Reactor teams. They're an amazing set of developer locations around the world, and there's communities associated with them. So if you aren't already a part of a Reactor community and you've found us somehow somewhere else, do join them because they do amazing stuff all year round. For this session, we're talking Unpacking Ignite, and I probably focus mostly on the area of AI, ML, and data science. However, I was looking at my notes for this just before and some of the things I was excited about. I was getting giddy about most things in some of the keynotes, particularly some of the office things, because let's be honest, we all have to work on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of us are working remotely still at the moment. So there was some really, really cool stuff there. But yeah, they're probably my focus key areas. So I'll pass it over to Susie. Susie, could you do a quick introduction of yourself?
So my name's Susie Dean. I'm an Office Apps and Services MVP, and I spend my days running Add-in 365, which is a Microsoft partner that specialises in employee experiences, so Teams, SharePoint, and the Viva suite. And you can ask me about Teams, Viva, SharePoint, and Amy was just fangirling about Loop because she saw that for the first time a few days ago, so we can cover that as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Susie. Rick, over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Rick Hempworth. I guess I am the grizzled IT pro in the room. So I go back a long way, all the way back to hugging servers in the 80s and 90s. These days, though, I'm all about cloud. I'm an Azure MVP. I'm also Microsoft Regional Director, which is another community award. I got excited about a whole bunch of stuff that devs and IT pros should know about at Ignite. So Azure Container Apps, for example, which is really, really cool. The new Chaos Studio, which if you've heard of Netflix's Chaos Monkey, is a really interesting way of ensuring that your applications can be resilient and respond to people yanking the rug out from under them. As well as some of the stuff that actually is more Susie's area, but because now we're talking about solutions spanning not just servers, not just Azure components, but also, you know, business users and business applications. That sort of hyper-connected thread within Ignite was something that I really enjoyed.
That's really good. Thank you, Rick. And actually, you sort of skew us very nicely onto just reminding everyone, if you didn't see at Ignite, we actually have 4 themes that we always cover. We always have themes. They just tend to change from year to year, and it's mainly because of wherever the 4 key focuses are. So how do we tell our story as Microsoft? So our 4 key themes of Ignite were to empower everyone for a new world of hybrid work. There was innovate anywhere, from multi-cloud to edge. So think Azure, think devices, think hybrid. Build a hyper-connected business, so just what Rick was mentioning about there. So really every platform and how they connect together. And then protecting everything with end-to-end security. I noticed we had some questions in the chat about Power BI. I'm a big fan of Power BI. Let's natter a little bit about Power BI if you want to. The only thing we did realise we have a little bit of a gap in, which is one of our core themes, is security. I think we can all hold an okay conversation in our areas, but we're by no means security experts. However, we know people, which sounds a bit ominous, doesn't it? But we all have great networks, the wonderful MVP network. I can reach into Microsoft as well, and we have some amazing cloud advocates who focus specifically on security. So if it is something you're interested in, let us know. Let us know in the chat. We'll see whether we can connect with you afterwards as well somehow and connect you up, or we can post in and recommend people that can actually, chat to you online or something like that. We're all online at the moment, so yeah, just do let us know what you're interested in the chat. We did say that we're gonna have a chat. We've got lots of things we can talk about, but we want it to be about you. So we want you to pop in the chat the things that you're looking to talk about. They often call this a table talk. We're kind of going for that kind of style. We will kick off with a few things, get us going, but then we're very much interested in hearing what you all have to say. Let's take a quick look at the polls, because the polls were something that we said was quite important for us to understand our audience. So it looks like so far, with what type of organisation are you currently working in, it looks like we've got 50. Rick, you actually predicted this, I think, in our prep session. 50% are Microsoft partner. So we will try to skew some of our conversations if we can to, oh, it's just gone up, 54%, 58%. Everyone's a Microsoft partner here. So I love this real time. This is wonderful. So yeah, 58% currently are Microsoft partner. We then have 8% in enterprise, 16% small medium business, and 16% startup as well. So welcome everyone. We enjoy everyone joining us and giving their perspectives. I'm also just scrolling up. We asked what type of technical persona you were. Here we go. Some partners are small, medium businesses. This is so true. Where do you put yourself? Choose one is the only answer I think I have for you at the moment off the top of my head. So in types of roles, Rick and Susie, just to let you know, we have 50% developer, 33% IT professional, your people, Rick, your types. No data scientists, so no one that wants to come and talk to me. That's sad. 8% business personas, and 8% other. If you answered other and you feel confident enough, feel free to pop in the chat what type of role you are, because we're always interested. I don't actually fit. I'd probably click developer still. And that's probably not really that specific for my role, so completely understand the other tag, but just let us know if you are one of those people. Wonderful. Cool. So once we've got a little bit of a better sense of the audience, Rebecca kicked us off with how the session's going to work, and let's get on some talking points. So should we start very briefly? What was our first? Our first one was empower everyone with the new world of hybrid work. So let's have a quick, because actually that might connect us quite nicely to Power BI. I see hybrid tables in Power BI. I might need to look into that one a little bit more for you while someone else is talking. But Susie, do you want to kick us off with kind of what you saw in the Office and app space? Because I feel like we're all impacted by that as well.
Yeah, so Microsoft announced the Viva Suite some time ago. We've heard about a number of Viva SKUs that have been quite embryonic to date. We were given really good insight into where some of those service roadmaps are going to be going. Viva Connections is the personalized app within the Viva Suite that's designed to create connections between employees and between leadership and employees as well. For some time now, we've known that there's going to be a dashboard, a universal feed, and then a resources tab, which in general is going through to published SharePoint portals. The feed is a universal feed rolling up all of your messages from Teams, Yammer, and even third-party news sources that might be coming through to you. And the dashboard is actually something that you can put individual apps on using things like adaptive cards to bring through information that's specific to the individual. So you might have a counter for the number of holidays somebody has left, or their next review point. And at Ignite, we saw a number of new things to help us if we're partners, as many of you are on the call, but also if we're organisations wanting to take advantage of that capability. So for the dashboard cards, we got a look at a new audience targeting UI for that, which is a flyout panel that comes from the right and is very, very user friendly. And I wanted to start with that because sometimes audience targeting and how that works for a power user or a business user could feel like a bit of a dark art and might involve a slightly more technical person to help them through that process. So seeing that panel coming out from the right is a big step forward in how Microsoft are making their tooling more and more business friendly. We also heard that the roadmap for Viva Connections is going to allow for additional interactivity for those dashboard cards. So we'll be able to do more with the content through that UI. And we're also been told now that we can have multiple instances of Viva Connections per tenant. So very important for those large enterprises that might have multiple operating companies on a single tenant. Up to this point, there can only be one site enabled for that Viva Connections UI. Multiple instances are going to be coming soon. And the Viva feed that I talked about a moment ago, I think it's sort of March this year, we saw the first GIF videos being produced, and we were told that boost functionality would be available to communicators for key news stories and items that they want to keep top of that feed. And we got the first look at it this week, and that boost functionality is going to appear at the top of the SharePoint page. So really, really easy again for communicators to boost that. And within the Viva Learning SKU, which was the other favourite that I saw this week, we were able to see how trending and share content was going to work, and also the options to personalise my learning. I'll stop there for a moment.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, so much. I did see it just appear one day. Obviously, I'm in the Microsoft tenant. So in seeing Viva, I'd heard about it, I'd read about it. It actually it was another event, was it, Susie? At this time we've had announcements about it, have we? And progression, whereas it was announced at a previous event, is that right?
It's the progression element. I think that there were lots of slideware at the top of the year, and it was a little bit unclear how some of these things would manifest. But now you can see the production teams at Microsoft have been really busy, and these capabilities are rolling out now and in some instances available to use. I think the big new announcement was the announcement that Microsoft have purchased Ali, depending on which continent you're in, how that's pronounced, and that's an OKR tool. So an OKR is an objective and key result that most leadership teams in organisations have, and a lot of the point solutions that are available in the market generally allow you to track departmental and individual progress against those OKRs. And in Microsoft making that acquisition, which was announced, it has been announced in the last week or so, it's really sort of putting a wrapper around that idea of hybrid work. We need to be able to operate as a business through the online medium. We know we've got teams for collaboration. We know we could have communities through Yammer. We know we've got the Viva suite to enable that personalisation. And now we can actually track the organisation's progress using Ally through Viva as well. So very, very exciting.
Wonderful. Matthew asks in the chat, great question. Susie, do you know, is an OKR, is it the same thing as a KPI, or are these different things? Similar? Pretty
much. I mean, a KPI is a key performance indicator, isn't it? OKR is objective and key result. So they're very, very similar. We work with organisations that use both, but I think in larger organisations they tend to use OKRs because they are easier to segment down into business divisions and then down to individuals. But yes, they're pretty much the same thing. And I think for the partners on the call, it's a brilliant opportunity to have another type of engagement with clients around what they're trying to achieve as a business, and then looking at how tools and applications that Microsoft make available can support those organisations in meeting their goals.
Do you think the Viva and tools like that have just come out are still as useful to small orgs as large orgs? Susie, I can see the obvious benefit to enterprise, but I'm struggling a little bit for my sort of 30-40 man band.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if you think about the Viva Connections capability, it's a brilliant mobile app. In my company, we're using the dashboard for an onboarding buddy system. We've got an adaptive card for that because people are onboarding, but we're at home sometimes, we're in the office sometimes. So that's been really useful. Everyone wants to know how much holiday they've got and when their next pay review is coming up. It doesn't matter what size of business you're in. We've got all of our intranet and resources from the resources tab and the universal feed, because we're all working in teams. And I think most organisations will find that useful. Viva Topics and the topic cards are just fantastic for bringing together subject matter expertise. And again, big or small, your business is going to be doing something, and you're going to want to roll those up. And our HR director is so excited about Viva Learning and those capabilities, especially the automated recommendations and recommend to a friend, because again, we're all, especially in the Office 365 space, fighting for very few resources. So when we get those good people in, we need to progress them and we need to retain them. So whichever size organisation we are, that learning capability is going to be very, very useful to making sure we can track progress. And of course, OKRs, KPIs. Every organisation has goals, don't they, with different divisional leaders taking, leading the march in terms of meeting the objectives for their segment of the business. So absolutely brilliant for businesses large and small. I think the Viva suite is really just helping businesses to stay operational, whether or not they can see their people, which of course large businesses have had to deal with for a long time. But this has hit the rest of the economy, hasn't it? Small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I can honestly as well, from sort of the data or the machine learning side, the recommendations on the learning piece and the training and stuff like that. That's really interesting, right? We have recommendations in pretty much every part of our lives now. My online shopping habits get recommended, things I watch on TV get recommended. And if you think about it, search engines, how long have they been around now? That they're nothing new to us. And what they do is they distill a huge amount of information into something that is ranked and easier to use, easier to digest. And I don't know about all of your days, but my days are packed from head to toe. And so having that training time is hard enough anyway. But knowing how important that is to an organisation, and then being able to say, hey, like, you know, here's what we recommend for someone like you in your role at your level, I'm assuming, is it like this? I think it's really cool.
And the other thing, you know, Rick's just asked about large and small businesses, but we, you know, thinking about more manual workers, frontline workers, the Microsoft Teams capability have announced some brilliant things at Ignite last week as well, and pulling together the ability to run shifts, to manage tasks. There was a brilliant demonstration of how you can get hold of a manager that happens to be on duty during your shift, and line of business apps and templates for Teams for the frontline worker have been around a little while, but seeing all of that brought together felt really, really comprehensive. And there are some excellent frontline worker sessions that were on at Ignite that you can still catch the recordings for. So it's supporting that hybrid working pattern, of course, for office workers, but also thinking about that frontline worker as well. And on the Teams side for office workers, there's the ability now to do Q&A, so moderating and filtering questions, and also one I think everyone on the call will appreciate in meetings, being able to track the order in which the virtual hands have been raised by participants, which we've needed for a while. So lots of really good stuff there as well.
Nice. Thank you for breaking it down for us. I feel like I understand it now. And it's as someone mentioned, it's actually not my area at all, but actually affects me on a day-to-day basis, right? It's how I function. It's how I am able to do what I do, which is actually over in the Azure business. So if anyone has any extra questions for Susie based on Viva, based on Office, based on anything like that, do either feel free to come off mute, have a chat with us, pop it in the chat if that works better for you. We're all, Susie, you're in the UK, right? Yeah, we're all based in the UK. Yeah. So it's early evening our time. So if you're cooking dinner, no worries. You just drop it in the chat and we can still chat to you. You can still find out and we can still have a good conversation about what's going on. If you're in other parts of the world, welcome also. Let's move on slightly, but it connects from moving from pure Office actually into Power Platform. And what was interestingly kind of became very closely part of the sort of Azure keynote. It very sort of really came through in the thread that was this idea of bringing together your pro developers and your low code developers in fusion, as they say, and kind of bringing them together. Rick, Susie, anything on pro dev, low code, no code, Power Platform? Where did you land on it?
Well, I mean, let's face it, there's the most important announcement, right, which is that you can now attach your Powerapps billing to Azure, so you can pay as you go for them, which I've seen how expensive the Powerapps licenses
That is
can
the
be.
most important announcement, because the pricing was a little bit prohibitive.
But
yeah,
and
they're a great democratizer, aren't they? We're a pro dev shop. We do a lot of work in things like Logic apps, so still low code, but more on the dev side. But what we find great is that people on the business side can prototype things in Powerapps and Flow, and then when they feel that it's either growing beyond them or it's becoming business critical enough that they want to, I was going to say pull it into source control, but that was the other big announcement, right? We can do source control on Powerapps now, yay. Because that's, if you ever ask a developer, they'd always look down on Powerapps, not because they're not capable, because they are, but there was no version control. So how do you manage what you're doing? Yeah. And I love that it's much more of a spectrum now rather than a bit of a step curve between the capabilities, and you can sort of start at one end and transition along transition along the journey, if you like, a bit like the citizen developer to pro developer journey as well.
Yeah, I would second that. I think the steps towards having the ability to do proper application lifecycle management is a big thing. I also really like the announcements around templates and the fact it's going to be possible to effectively have a library of Power templates for the business to reuse, because low code or no code, you know, everyone likes to be able to pull something off the shelf. And I think if you're a larger enterprise, we advocate it anyway, which is if you are a large enterprise, you do things once, you template, whether it's in SharePoint or Teams and now or Power Platform, so that you're not spending money doing the same thing over and over again. So that for me was the big highlight there.
Nice. For me, it was something that really, I'm a self-confessed, I like to dabble with Powerapps. I am highly impressed with AI Builder, having used Azure Machine Learning, like I use our machine learning services more, so Azure Machine Learning, cognitive services, and then seeing that experience and the power that's available in AI Builder, I've been blown away by that. But I'm by no means an expert in the Power Platform. Power BI, coming from the data background, has been. Joe, I saw you mentioned about hybrid tables. I actually didn't see that, so that was such a great shout. But I did just Google it, and it looked like it was also at the Business Applications Summit, so just before Ignite, much more focused on sort of Power BI kind of pieces and the Power platforms everywhere. I feel like I'm using it in every sentence. But yeah, do go and check out that. But it does look good for connecting direct query import. Just having a quick glance at it over there. So yeah, nice one on calling that one out for us as well. But yeah, no, really enjoyed seeing you can now put these in app stores, right? They're not within just inside your tenant. I thought that was yeah, that one really grabbed me. I don't know why. I do know why. I built a couple of apps and I was like, you know what, it'd be so much easier if I could just have this, like, for, especially as someone who speaks to developers that are outside of my organization, I would have found it useful to have kind of shared that a little bit, and possibly at events got people to kind of use it in order to, you know, share some of my demos and stuff like that. But otherwise as well, just to be able to get that to line of business workers or out to your customers, I just thought it was really, really interesting. I don't know whether that was a big shock, but it was certainly something I was really, really excited to see. Rick, Jao in the chat asked to talk a little bit about the Azure OpenAI for using GPT-3 models. And strangely, earlier on when you messaged me, I was quite shocked to see that you watched that session, right? Tell me what your thoughts are on it.
I watched it because I have views on some of this, because I look over the shoulder of my developers as they go, hey, Rick, look, I can type a bunch of comments into VS Code and it scaffolds it for me. And I go, and do you know what it is? Because I'm old, right? I was never allowed to use a calculator at school because I had to understand. It was like, right, you can use a calculator when you know how to do it from first principles. You can use this code writing code malarkey when you actually understand what it's going to write for you. But the language models, the non-code writing AI stuff that's in the open data, that's so pertinent to a lot of my customers. I work with organizations for whom real-time translation is important, for whom natural language parsing is important. And the APIs in that open data API AI portfolio are really interesting for taking content and generating summaries. If you're a law firm or any kind of professional services practice where you're meat and two veggies trying to digest large amounts of content and create summaries and potentially even, you know, translate those summaries into different languages, those OpenAI models look really great. So I was interested in, well, what's available? How do I use them? How can I plug them in? To which the answer is it's an invite-only preview at the moment, but it's if you submit a case, providing you have an active use case and it ticks the boxes, then there's a sort of a white glove program, as I understand it. I watched the keynote and that sounded exciting. Watched the session on it and was just blown away, frankly, by the stuff that we can do with these AI models now. I dread to think the compute power they're consuming. But that's more your side, isn't it, Amy? That's the how does it work? Is, you know, and now over to you.
Yeah. Interestingly, OpenGPT-3 has been a hot topic in the machine learning space. It was quite the groundbreaker in what it could do. If anyone knows or has tracked, Microsoft Research are very, very well known in the history of machine learning. If you go, I do a talk on the history of machine learning. Go Google, and it's fascinating to see that they've very much been at the forefront, and natural language, speech to text, speech translation as well are like specific things that have come out of Microsoft Research and are super impressive. OpenGPT-3, it's an open source model. Microsoft's been partnering very closely with the foundation. Eric Boyd did a really good into focus session. Just gonna silo very quickly because Rick, you put something really good, I thought, in some of your notes we sent around between us. The approach you were going to take to Ignite, because there's so much and there's lots of different types of content, was you were going keynotes, into focus sessions, and then breakouts, weren't you, in order to digest the information? Yeah, so
one of the things that's actually really interesting to me, Amy, is the learning that Microsoft have had on doing big events. And part of me rails against this because I like 45-minute deep dives. I mourn the loss of the 400 and 500 level sessions at the in-person events. But when you're watching online, fatigue's a big thing. And the team that built Ignite, when they were talking to a few groups of us before it started, said, look, we've had a bit of a thought about this. And what we're going to do, we've got the keynote, which is, you know, the headline pitch, the Satya and the CVPs with here are the big ideas. But then we're going to try and walk you on a journey through this. So if you want to know more, then there are these interfocus sessions, which are slightly longer, sort of 45 minutes or so, and they'll go through that in a bit more depth. And then on the ones that then your interest peaks, go and look at the breakout sessions. And then if you really want to have a good time, go look at the blueprint sessions. Because they're the sort of 60-minute roll up sleeves, get the whiteboard out, real deep dive. And that's really nice because being at home, and I can do this at my leisure, right? I can spend a small amount of time getting the high level content and then sort of pick my learning journey and go through the session builder and throw things in my backpack and work out what I'm going to watch. The trouble is now my backpack's getting a bit big and it's like, well, I can do that, or you know, Ignite session, foundation. Yeah. But yeah, I really appreciate the level of thought that's been put into that, because digesting, and it's not just Ignite, right? And .NET 6 GA today. There's another conference. The .NET Conf is tomorrow. GitHub Universe was the week before last. Yeah, there's just too much of it.
There is a lot going on. So no, I thought it was good to call it out just very quickly. If you're looking to still consuming Ignite content, I think that's a wonderful way to do it. Check out the keynotes. What did you get excited about? Look at an interfocus session. The interfocus sessions are quite short, so if you know your general areas and maybe an area you're skilling up on, go check out the interfocus sessions. Then breakout sessions, even then they're not super long anymore, but they're a bit more specific. And then, yes, these blueprint sessions as well. This was a new one to Ignite. I didn't actually get a chance to see you on them. I'd like to catch up. I think a couple are in my backpack. So that's a really good shout. So yeah, use your backpack. It's a virtual backpack. You don't actually have to physically carry it, so don't worry. But back to the AI models. Yeah, I'm just noticing some of the stuff in the chat. So I liked it in Eric Boyd's into focus session based on AI. He really laid out what the Azure AI platform now looks like, and he was kind of saying you can go as high level or as deep into AI with Microsoft as you wish. And I thought it was just very, very well broken down. So I'll try and get a link when someone else is chatting and just kind of share that with you. But I'd never seen it told like that, and it suddenly made quite a lot of sense as to okay, how are we looking at it as Microsoft. And so if you think high level, you're talking AI builder, we're in services like the Power Platform. We then move down a level and we dip into Azure. So we are probably a developer-esque or a technical persona, someone who's used to being around infrastructure or code. And then you're looking at things like cognitive services. You only have to be able to call them. They're an API, and you access. Little red flag going up. As someone who is in the data science and machine learning space, please do look up what these algorithms do, because they will help you use them as well. So even though we offer computer vision out of a box and it looks like magic when it tells you what's in a picture, it's not actually magic. I'd love to tell you it is. But behind the scenes, knowing what it's trying to do, even without the math, you don't need to go into the math, but even just understanding theoretically, very basically, what it's doing. Same with natural language processing, same with speech and stuff like that. You'll actually notice then, if you go down that one level further, we have these bespoke cognitive services. So we have these ones such as custom vision, where you can submit your own images, you can submit your own text and speech now in some of these neural language processing models and stuff like this. And knowing what to submit and what is good data and what is good variety is the key to making it successful, out of the box sort of thing. Then there's more levels. Then you go down to Azure machine learning, and this is where someone like myself, I don't mind getting into the Python code and the libraries such as TensorFlow and Keras and PyTorch, very, very popular framework at the moment. I don't mind getting into them, but I am petrified of containers. I'm not really sure in most cases. Well, I know enough to be dangerous, is always the saying, isn't it? But I know enough as a data scientist, and I can lean on those with expertise and have a very, very easy ability to get my model out there being tested, which is awesome, and so much more in there. And then now there's this level below it, right, where a lot of people, Eric Boyd mentions the OpenAI service specifically, initially partnered with Microsoft, he said, for the hardware. So to be able to use the mass amounts of hardware at these high performance specialized machines, they were able to use. And then now that being a partnership that's built into a service. So there really is so much to dig into in that AI space. And I just thought he did a really, really cool job of breaking that down. If you don't know what GPT-3 is, it's worth a read. There is many blog posts out there, but it's worth going to see kind of what it does. Rick, you mentioned that session, an introduction to the Azure OpenAI service will tell you a little bit about some of the examples in there. But I did just want to pick here on Matthew's comment just about 6 minutes ago. You said it during the session, you'll say it again, an ethical use of AI and being mindful. Absolutely. If there's someone that you want to follow in this space, you may have seen her in one of the keynotes, is someone called Sarah Bird. I've just popped her name in there. Put Sarah Bird Microsoft into your favorite search engine, and you'll find she's doing amazing stuff with her team to really push forwards some of the stuff around ethical AI. And also a lot of it is not just technical, it's actually social or soft skills that need to be considered as well, like how we design, when we're saying, oh, wouldn't it, because we do this as technical people, right, wouldn't it be amazing if you could do this? And then like you and a group of people that you regularly work with are like, oh yeah, that'd be amazing. But unfortunately, you and the people that you work with probably might, having worked together, go in similar circles, and you might not have perspectives that other people would, that your thing that you're building would affect them when it got out into production.
Absolutely.
So it's a fascinating area.
We've been doing a lot of work around conversation design. So we wanted to use Azure and combine that with the bot interface in order to have rich conversations. And almost immediately, our US clients are saying, that sounds very British, can we change that? And so very quickly we ended up with the ability for organizations to change the text that they want to see to reflect the culture that they have within their organizations. I think, going back to that very first part where we know lots of people on here are Microsoft partners, I think conversation design is absolutely a soft skill that most partners don't necessarily have within their ranks already. So it's a brilliant technology to deliver, but it's also brilliant to be able to diversify our own workforces and bring in skills that we haven't necessarily had before in order to deliver that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Conversational AI, I was building some stuff with bots recently, and there's a lot when people start testing your chatbot that you don't realize they're going to do. It's like any software, right, that we build. The minute you start doing user testing, you're like, oh, we didn't think we would click there, or that's not where we'd look for, you know, data sets or something like that. I always find that quite interesting.
It's something you can do, which is just brilliant, is use Power Platform, so that when somebody's interacting with that conversational interface, you can see those, and we use a Power Platform to point that towards a SharePoint list, so that we can see exactly what's coming through and what's being asked, so that we get better at conversational design as people are interacting with that bot UI. So that's a really good way of using those technologies together.
Wonderful. I'm so sorry, my headphones just died. It's been a long day. Wasn't expecting that to happen. Can you still hear me okay? Is there a bit of an echo, or not too bad? Nope. Not too
What happens if we say no?
Hello. So I just posted in a link to responsible AI and what we deem as the Microsoft AI principles, high level. However, scroll down the page a little bit and it starts digging into very specific things, such as inclusiveness, such as strategy, but then developing AI. This is the bit I go to, and then in there it actually breaks it down that we have a conversational AI element even into guidance that we've found having worked with customers and partners and ourselves to create these different things. Speaking of accessibility, let me take a very short U-turn, and Rick, I'm going to hand it over to you because you flagged an interesting piece around something that happened at Ignite around accessibility.
Yes, I again have been really impressed with the fact that Microsoft actually does really walk the walk. This whole empower every person, right? The diversity hiring, the representation of people with disabilities and neurodiverse within Microsoft is great. What I found really disappointing on, I think it was Friday, was this rant on Twitter from some idiot who was complaining that every single speaker at the start of a session had described themselves. You know, hi, I am a somewhat old middle-aged white guy who looks like an idiot who's wearing a bow tie. And I thought, well, that's a bit weird, but actually it was a really thoughtful thing to do for the visually impaired who can only hear different voices and have no idea about the people that were talking to them. And it's those little things that I find really interesting. And if you go to the session builder and you look in the refiners and look for humans of IT, there are some great sessions talking about soft skills, talking about, you know, supporting people with different abilities within the organization. And there's a lot of stuff actually being written by Jenny Leigh-Fleury and the Microsoft Accessibility team. I think Donna Sarkar's a part of that as well, isn't she now, Amy? That about how to make technology that benefits people and can be used by anybody and everybody, not just you know, the able-bodied, well, people, middle-aged white guys, right? Middle-aged white guys design software for middle-aged white guys, and then the wheels come off the wagon. Although
interestingly, lots of middle-aged white guys are colourblind, and so work needs to be done on accessibility there as well. So, you know, anyone can have a disability, can't they? I think that's sort of the point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, good call out, Rick. I'm going to do I think James might be on this call, who runs our London Reactor, and he's put a show that I've got called A Bit of AI. If you go to a bit of AI.show as a URL, you'll notice me and my co-host Henk also do that. Now, we do it for accessibility purposes. We actually also have our show as a podcast because we don't share the screen. All we have on the screen is just the people. It's a show about people. So I thought, I was actually like, oh, you know what? You know, when you listen to a podcast and it's not a famous person that you actually like know what they look like, it is actually a little bit sort of unnerving in some senses, and it helps to picture people, and it adds a little bit more colour. So we do it on the A Bit of AI show. Shameless plug there. So do go check it out. But also, it was amazing to see that we were doing it Ignite. Peter, thank you for highlighting this. Not happy to see some of the chat. Soft skills indeed. So yeah, no, Peter, thank you for +1 on Rick's comment just there. So we have just over 10 minutes left. We still have a great quorum of people with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. If you have areas that you want to talk about, if there was something that you saw at Ignite that you want to discuss a little bit further, we are people who are happy to discuss most things. Do let us know. Oh, here we go. Insights regarding the new Azure Video Analyzer for Media.
Wow, that's
AKA
ask.
AVAN. Whoa, AVAN. Oh gosh, it's getting late, isn't it?
I hadn't even come across that one. That one.
No, I was going to say
really
insights regarding the new Azure Video Analyzer.
As we all race to
do you have any other insights yourself? Was there a session that you watched around that, or was that something that you saw? Is it in the book of news potentially? The Azure AI section, because of Azure and AI, lands pretty high up in the book of news. I've always found that very useful myself for a quick glance into what's important. Yeah, if you can give us a little bit more context about anything particularly you're looking for, or share with the rest of us on this call any of the sessions, or anyone else that did see a session around Azure Video Analyzer, do pop it in there. That wasn't something that I looked at specifically, but as I said, my backpack is full, so I've got a lot to do.
So if it is what I think it is, it's what used to be the video indexer that was underpinning parts of Office and Stream, that's now available as a service. So you can throw your videos in it and it will do stuff using the Cog Services APIs. That looks really interesting. I hadn't come across that, but I'm jolly well going to go read about it now. So yeah, sorry, Maya, that I can't go, yes, it's this but actually that looks really interesting. Again, I've got customers that are interested in sort of processing video and you know, identifying the speakers that are on there for corporate content, or pulling out transcriptions, that kind of stuff. That looks really cool.
Yeah, we use Microsoft Stream a lot internally. It's definitely something that it's really impressive what it does. It's great for subtitling as well. I've actually used sometimes that I do that so it gets like a standard set of subtitles, and then I review them before I post them on some of my YouTube videos.
Yeah, I still, Teams recordings is good, right? But if you throw the Teams recording back into Stream, you can click on the transcript and go to the point in the video. And I love that. It's so, because now in the world of online workshops, we tend to record workshops because it's easier than taking lots of notes, and you flick backwards and forwards. You know, when did they say this? The transcription's interesting if you're a fairly fast talking Yorkshireman like me, but you know, you get close enough.
Absolutely. Carnegie Johnson, indeed, this is really interesting. Love MS Stream. Just wish we had the B2B features. Tell us more. Pop a bit more in the chat there. Pop a bit more, and we can jump on that one. Little plug from Rebecca there. Do check in. Rebecca has like 1,000 links from us. She has links for cloud skills challenges if you've not done that already and you've not checked out Microsoft Learn. I don't know if you noticed, someone on my team actually worked on this. For every Ignite session, there was a Microsoft Learn collection. So there's a collection of resources. Microsoft Learn collections now don't have to be just Learn modules or learning paths. They're also URLs, blog posts, links to documentation, stuff like that. So definitely, if you didn't get a chance, I think they're just below all the sessions. There should just be a link. Well worth, favoriting some of them if you've really enjoyed a session and you want to go get hands-on. Harry, is there a slide deck from Microsoft with summary pages for any lessons? Harry,
Little book of news.
Book of news.
The book of news is the center of the universe. Rebecca, do you have that link handy again for the book of news? Could you post that in for Harry? Great question, because there is so much at Ignite. Like, even just listening to one of the Interfocus sessions, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to have a break after it, because it was like, and you get a new feature and you get a new feature. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, no, it's certainly, there's a lot going on there. Microsoft Ignite, book of news. We do a book of news for all our first party events. So if you're a Microsoft Build fan as well, I believe we do for our other ones like Business Applications Summit and all these different things that we do across the year. A book of news is a great way to break it down, and especially Ignite, because we cover so much when it comes to Ignite. We have 6 minutes left. Susie, I'm going to come back to you. Let's talk Microsoft Loop.
I knew you would want to do that. Okay, I'm not sure how many people on this meeting have heard about Loop and what it is, but in a nutshell, it was about mid-2019 when Microsoft let the world know about something called the Fluid Framework, and Loop is like the end user experience for that that's been released. And the best way to think of it is as a unit of productivity. So the first place you can see this right now, and it's actually in my tenant. It might be because I'm in preview mode. If you are, check it out. If not, see if it is there. But the first place Loop is manifesting is in Teams chat. And what you'll see when you type in Teams and you open up your message box to full size is a little square with 2 other little squares attached to it. And what this means is that if you click on that when you're typing, you're given a number of options: checklist, paragraph, table, task list, and you can type into that Teams chat, and the other person can actually edit and co-author that piece of text for you. So it's an atomic unit of productivity, and it's allowing for instantaneous snippets where you might need to pull someone into something or collaborate with somebody on something. So that's what Loop is. That's what it's useful for, and it's just brilliant. So have a play with it if you are in preview mode. The only thing to be aware of is that there is a dependency on OneDrive for Business. So if your guest users are participating in that chat, they can't create messages containing the Loop component, but they can update Loop components that are sent by the tenant users. And if you want to know where those Fluid files are kept, that's in the author's OneDrive for Business account, and it's quite cool because if you open them up, you can see in both places that text changing. So it's a really exciting capability that gives an end user experience to a technology that's needed a creative outlet for some time.
Amazing. No, honestly, just the whole piece. Carnegie Johnson just called it out. Sticky notes. That was the bit I noticed. Also, just that ability. It looked very much like bringing your OneNote together, bringing your messages together. Like at the moment, I feel very sporadic when I work on a single project, and I also work on. I like to think of them as spinning plates. I have many spinning plates that I'm trying to keep stood up at all times. And sometimes, you feel like, oh God, right, I've got through all my Teams messages and I've got through all my emails, and right now I'm in OneNote, and there's this note, this .text file somewhere on my device that I've got to go look for something that I wrote it down. I even go very, very analog and old school, and I have to-do lists and everything. So I'm very excited to just see whether I can move all of these things to one place, because I think I'm quite visual. So I'm quite like, I'd like to be able to see a lot of it as well. I think that would really improve my productivity a little bit as well, which is cool.
It's possible now with the end user services to really do what works for you. You know, you can get your Yammer notifications or your Teams notifications in Outlook. You can be in SharePoint and post your content into Teams and into Yammer. So there is definitely an anything anywhere. Not anything anywhere, everything everywhere, and so you can sort of work out your own personal working style and what works for you. And if you're somebody that has to deliver a really specific thing into lots of different places, Loop is going to be absolutely brilliant, because you're not going to have to go and open a shared document or be part of 35 teams because you do one thing on one document in each team. You can now actually interact just on that segment of content in chat, which is of course much friendlier, which is also going to have a knock-on positive impact to how many teams you're in, how many emails you're picking up, how many documents you've got available to you as well. And I think, you know, the bigger the organisation, the greater chance there is that you are somebody that does a really specific thing. And so I think this is a capability we're going to see and hear a lot more of yet.
Wonderful. Rick, how do you feel about Loop? You're a bit quiet over there. You're sceptical.
No, so I see Loop and I think of something much more innocuous, which is Word collaborative doc editing, which I always used to think was a solution looking for a problem. And then my team started working on really big reports together, or tenders, you know, as a sales team, being able to work on the same Word doc at the same time and watch paragraphs appearing, and then being able to correct all the semicolons and crappy punctuation and all that kind of stuff. It's actually, you can't underestimate, it's difficult to explain the value of that. So when you look at Loop, which actually draws together lots of different sources of information and puts it all together real time, you know, I mean, I try not to work in sales, but the example of being able to pull in a pipeline object from Dynamics 365 and just drop it in there, and every time you look back at it, it's up to date. You're not going and looking back and it's 3 days old. It's up to the minute, and being able to share information. The tricky bit with that is not the enabling technology, it's the cultural shift and changes in working paradigms that you actually have to bring along with it. And I mean, only the other day I encountered somebody who'd given feedback on a document that was about 2 weeks out of date because they preferred to write on a printed version. And that's the interesting challenge that I'm looking at with a lot of all of this. It's the forced change because of remote working. The technology is way out there and it's great, you know, for the tech savvy like us and the youngsters. And what I'm genuinely interested in now is, how do we pull along the long tail? How do we bring them into these ways of working with all the tools that Susie's talked about, not just Loop, to be fair?
Yeah, I mean, we think that all organisations need to invest in some form of onboarding to show people things like co-author, version control, now Loop, because there is an assumed level of knowledge that actually isn't really there. It's not being taught in schools, is it? So if you turn up at the workplace and it exists, you're not going to know about it unless you do that. I think the good thing is we see lots of organisations now having a centre of excellence, having change managers in-house. So really, it's about those change managers having a roadmap, you know, having their backpack at Ignite, looking at the sessions, working out what's going to turn the dial for different parts of their business, and then actioning that, because this isn't going to change, is it? There's going to always be new brilliant technologies available to us that people are going to want to take advantage of.
Yeah, no, it's such a great shout. I was lucky enough to work with a set of interns over this summer. So they come to Microsoft whilst they're outside of their university year, and they work with us directly in our team. Amazing set of students that we worked with. But I didn't. So I was helping them out, supporting them as their manager, and I was stopped in my tracks a little bit when I was like, oh yeah, can you set up a meeting, trying to give some power over to them and be like, you own this, you take this one on, can you set up a meeting and do that? And suddenly realized they don't have to sell meetings anywhere else. That's something we do in the workplace. And you suddenly forget that all these things that we just build on our knowledge every single day. And I was saying to someone, I was finding a lot as well when we're moving from in person to online, some of the stuff, these sessions are good for it, but sessions where I'm just presenting, I actually used to learn a lot in person from other people whilst I was at that event presenting, and some of that has gone away. So these sessions are great for that, getting other people's perspectives, getting other people's thoughts, and resources, and what did they highlight at this huge event.
And Rick mentioned earlier that bemoan the loss of level 400 and 500 sessions, and while that's true, there are a lot of really business friendly sessions now, so I think partners and technicians on this call alike, I think it's completely acceptable now to send some of these sessions to business people and have them consume that information and to learn from what's available. And certainly the book of news is something I share out to our clients and business stakeholders as well, because it is really easy to digest, and the fact that a lot of these capabilities drop pretty much the same week as the announcements means that you can actually have a play, like I was with Loop, as you're talking and thinking about it.
Yeah. Great story from Peter in the chat around for his son when he was working on his final paper in college. Do check that one out. That's a great story of collaboration.
And I think that it's amazing that one of the biggest bugbears I hear from business stakeholders is, it's multiple versions of documents, and you go and they've saved it version 1.1, 1.2, 2.0, and when you say, out of the box, it's on. You don't have to do that anymore. Oh, is it? So I think so much of this is about awareness raising rather than organisations needing to really do anything beyond that.
Wonderful. And unfortunately, being conscious of everyone's time, we're already actually 5 minutes over what we planned. I can see Rebecca, she's like side-eye nudging me, like, wrap it up. She's not. Rebecca would be here all day with us. So no, we should wrap up, being conscious of everyone's time. We really appreciate you joining us for a whole hour. I don't know where it went. We had so many other things we could talk about that we barely covered really a lot of what we said. Do check out those resources, that link, do follow us online, do get in contact with the Reactor. I was just going to pop in, Rick, if it answers your question. I know you've probably been on Learn TV, but if you're still looking for technical content all year round that's related to Microsoft products and services, go to aka.ms/LearnTV. Learn TV and Microsoft Learn at the centre of Microsoft's technical learning resources. Do go check them out. I also wanted to do a quick call out for a Microsoft Learn student ambassador. I'm not sure if she's here, but Bethany Jebchumba, she has been doing some amazing stuff around Ignite. She's kind of taken part in it. We're keen to highlight our amazing student ambassadors that work really closely with us. They challenge us every day, but they also show us what we can do with our amazing technologies. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to Bethany. Thank you for being a wicked student ambassador, and keep in touch with us all, me, Susie, Rick, everyone in the audience as well. We definitely want to hear what you're all working on and what you're sharing, what you find most interesting at these events. So with that, thank you everyone. Thank you for connecting. Thanks for the messages in the chat. It's been a pleasure to speak with you all. Keep in touch with us, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.